freedom, pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we enjoy in this wonderful country of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, once again with you this evening to talk about character matters. Because, as I see it, nothing matters more to our country and the survival of freedom than character. And we are in the midst of a character crisis, not just here, but in much of the free world, the likes of which we have not seen in some time. It's not even limited to the free world, I should say. And it's the proverbial elephant in the room. It's the thing that no one talks about. It's the thing that no one pays much attention to. But it's the thing that affects us all in so many ways and threatens the very freedoms that we enjoy. And along those lines, I have been really working this past week, in addition to all my blog work. I've been working this past week to fashion from a lot of my existing material a piece for the Huffington Post that I hope to submit in the next couple of weeks. I don't know when it will run or if it will even be accepted. Some of my pieces have been accepted, some that I've co-written with other blog contributors to the Post. So I have hopes that it will, but I am working on a piece right now, and I would actually value any input anyone has to give in that regard. Any folks wanting to call in at 718-717-8296, I'm happy to take your call and to get your input. But I'm working on this piece about this elephant in the room, about this character problem that we face, and about how it is at the heart of so much of the difficulty that we experience and so much of the horror that we experience worldwide today. So many acts of craziness that we hear about on the daily news, so many of our economic problems, so many of the shenanigans that caused financial crises all across the globe and brought our economy to a screeching halt some years ago, a crisis that we are just now emerging from and have not really recovered very well from. All of this stemming from the fact that we no longer think it so important to build character in people and to treasure character and to hold people accountable and to make sure that our social institutions promote and foster character and that they also reward good character and they don't reward bad character. That our institutions and our social structures hold people to account and foster a sense of responsibility and social awareness. We desperately need this in our time, and some things are happening worldwide that I think should concern us all very, very deeply. You know, I've written extensively about character disturbances in my books and in my online articles, which you can find at the wonderful international blog at www.counselingwith2lsresource.com, and also my own blog, Dr. George Simon's Manipulative People blog at www.manipulative-people.com. Hundreds of articles on character, on the character crisis, on various types of character disorders, how to spot them, how to deal with them, tips for understanding the kind of mess that we find ourselves in. Hundreds of articles there for you, and also wonderful comments by the readers of these blogs, comments and contributions that can help anyone understand the dilemma of our time. But in addition to these articles, and in addition to my books, the international bestseller In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People, the other follow-up book, Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, and my book targeted toward the faith community, The Judas Syndrome. In addition to that, I am working on this piece for Huffington Post that I have tentatively titled The Elephant in the Room, because character is that elephant in the room. It's the proverbial thing that we never really address directly. You know, we got a taste of the kind of brutality that could be coming our way in America much more frequently. I'm sounding the alarm now. It seemed to pass pretty much unnoticed as an isolated instance. Some jihadist in the northeastern part of our country committed a gruesome murder, a beheading, and did so in the name of Allah. I want to tell you how these kinds of things get fomented here in our country. We have, unfortunately, a character crisis in this country that is so second to none that, unfortunately, it's a real blight on us. Unfortunately, we have more of our population incarcerated, a greater proportion of our population incarcerated than any other free country on earth. This is a national disgrace. And you will hear it said often, that the real problem with that is not that we have so many people that deserve incarceration, but the real problem is that we're incarcerating a lot of folks who don't deserve to be incarcerated, who are in prison for nonviolent offenses, who are in prison for drug offenses, who are in prison because of third strike and you're out rules, laws that were written to deal with habitual offenders. So you will hear comments that the real reason we have such a high prison population is that we're just incarcerating too many folks needlessly. But the truth of the matter is that our jails are bursting at the seams. They've become virtual holding tanks because our prisons are overcrowded. We can't build them fast enough. And the other truth of the matter is, it's true that many folks come into prison on nonviolent offenses. But when you look more closely, when you look beneath the surface of the statistics, you will see that many folks have been habitually committing all sorts of crimes for which we have not been able to successfully prosecute, or there isn't enough evidence to successfully prosecute. And so what happens is that many times with habitual offenders, when there's something that we can finally nail the offender on, even if it is a nonviolent crime, and even if it is just a revocation of probation or parole, we finally get them in a place where we can put them away for a while, take them off the streets, and at least prevent them from committing more crimes for a while. And this is not really a very good solution. Really, the only real solution is interventions that really focus on holding people to account and forcing the issue of developing some degree of character by which you can function, by which the person can function in society in a relatively responsible way. Now, I know that sounds like a pipe dream to many. There are many folks who say there is no rehabilitating hardened criminals, and there is no rehabilitating folks with severe disturbances of character. But I'm here to tell you that the bigger problem is that we never focus on it to begin with. We simply put folks away and throw away the key, take them off the streets for a while, and do nothing. Meanwhile, the animosity and the negative attitudes that breeded the problem in the first place continue to fester. And what we release back onto the streets are folks with disturbed character, folks who only go on to commit more crimes. So it's the proverbial elephant in the room. And the reason I'm so concerned about it now is because there is this worldwide movement appealing to the disenfranchised. There is no better way to cultivate a following. If you're a psychopathic, power-seeking, dominance-seeking totalitarian who wants to amass political and social power and enslave people, the way to do it, the way to mastermind a movement to enslave folks is to appeal to the disenfranchised, to market your ideology to the disenfranchised. And this is going on, folks, every single day in our prisons and in our ghettos and among our disenfranchised individuals. And when I say disenfranchised, I don't necessarily mean folks who have been disenfranchised unfairly because of discrimination. I'm talking about those folks who feel disenfranchised because they haven't gotten with the program. And they haven't gotten with the program largely, in large measure, because they haven't developed the character to function within our system, to function within a social order. They don't even know how. They haven't a clue. They haven't the rudimentary awareness of what it takes to function within a social framework. All they know is primitive life, either on the streets or with a gang or in a life of crime. And they are ripe for the picking. You know, in the many articles that I've written, I write that it's a hallmark feature of character disturbance not to be able to own, not to be able to acknowledge and admit one's own character shortcomings, but to find blame everywhere else, to externalize the cause or the source of all problems. This is a classic characteristic, a key feature of character disorders. And anybody who's ever been married to a character disturbed person or who's been in a relationship with a character disturbed person knows this to be true. I'd like to hear from you if you have an example. 718-717-8296. But anybody who's been in a relationship with one of these folks knows this to be true. It's never their fault. It's always somebody else. They always have a perfect excuse. They always have a justification, always something to hide behind. And these extreme ideological movements out there, where we basically have the kinds of personalities that I describe in my books, these aggressive, dominance-seeking personalities, who all they want to do is rule the world. That's all they want to do. They're kind of hardwired to do that. Well, they build their armies by appealing to the disenfranchised. I have a call coming in, which I'll accept. Hang on one second. Hello, and welcome to Character Matters.
Hi, Dr. Simon. My name is Tara.
Hi, Tara.
I do have an example. Hi.
You have an example?
Yeah, of someone with a character disturbance. It's a girl I work with. This is just a simple example. It's a girl I work with, and she's constantly gossiping, backstabbing other fellow employees. And when I first got to my job, I was a bit naive, and she, of course, was the first person to befriend me, to show me the ways of the company and how everything works. But the longer I worked with her, I started seeing these subtle signs, that something wasn't right with her. And little by little, I felt
what were some of the first signs that you picked up?
The gossip. I knew there was just, she was just so congenial, so nice to everybody. But as soon as she got with me, she would just say the ugliest things about fellow employees. And of course, there's people there that they're not perfect, but, you try to work it out, you try to be a team player and so forth. And, but the more she spent time with me, I just found, that little by little I was starting to feel like something, like I was starting to feel distant. I was starting to feel like I wanted to get away and break off this relationship with her. And so,
did you find yourself imagining what she must be saying about you behind your back?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's no doubt. And I started eventually seeing things that she was doing, talking to my supervisor, pointing out some of my flaws, and and telling other people that she talks to about, through the grapevine, other people were going back to me and saying, you should have heard what she said about you. I don't think it was true.
Did it become clear to you at some point what the agenda was?
I couldn't quite figure it out because she wanted, I think the only thing I can think of is that she wanted control. She wanted dominance over everybody. And
it's a good thing that you mentioned that. I don't know how much of my work that you're familiar with, but I mentioned in both of my books I use an analogy to the real estate industry. They say in real estate there are three things that matter. Have you heard this? Location, and location. Right. That's an axiom that's been around in the real estate industry for a long time to stress the point of how important that is in determining market value. Where a business is going to locate probably means more than anything else as far as whether they're going to get foot traffic, whether they're going to be successful. So this is really a very important thing. Well, in my books and in my other writings, I stress that when it comes to character disturbed people, especially that group that I call the aggressive personalities, there are three things that matter: position, and position. And it's really, really hard for most folks to fathom that there are some people for whom whether they occupy the position of dominance, whether they occupy the catbird seat, so to speak, they're in the driver's seat and they're in a position to control and dominate. Most folks find that inconceivable that could be such a huge agenda for certain personalities that it really drives all of their behavior. And there's really doesn't get any simpler than that, but it kind of blows the mind that there are some people for whom that is such a huge deal. Did you find yourself wondering that same thing?
The whole time I was around her, I just felt confused and almost like I just had this sick feeling. I couldn't describe it. Like I just wanted to run and get away from her. And that every moment I spent with her, I just felt the life draining out of me. And
that's because more than likely, I'm going to interrupt here for a second. That's because more than likely on the surface was all that charm and all that apparent congeniality that was on the surface. I wrote about that on the blog, on the Manipulative People blog just this week, and I've got a series planned on that. But what your gut was telling you underneath that superficial charm and that congeniality and that easy ability to make friends and be sociable, underneath this was this ruthless desire for position and power. And all those covert little ways, such as the gossip, of ensuring that by demeaning others casually and in a way that seemed almost benign in some ways, but nonetheless made your gut churn. These kinds of behaviors are the behaviors that covert aggressors use, that manipulative people use, to weasel their way into positions of power and to keep those positions of power when they have them, and to make sure that everybody else keeps their place. And it is unnerving, and it does kind of make your stomach turn because your gut knows what they're up to, but your brain has a hard time wrapping itself around it. It's so difficult to understand. Does that make sense?
Yeah. yeah, the whole time she was in my life, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think straight, and I felt like I was falling apart.
Yeah.
And
did you find
so
did you find yourself doubting your gut hunches about her?
Yeah, I felt myself making up excuses. You know, maybe she's lonely. Maybe she needs, you know, maybe she needs my friendship or a positive influence in her life. And in a way, I sort of felt sorry for her.
Uh-huh. So you took the most benevolent interpretation that perhaps there was some need there, some unmet need driving this, and that if only you could befriend her, perhaps give her some of this, that would ease any interior pain that she was experiencing driving this behavior.
Yeah. Well, at work, I started noticing she didn't have a lot of friends, and in spite of the fact that, you know, she seemed congenial with everybody, you know, I could tell no one wanted to be around her, and, you know, it dawned on me why, you know, she didn't.
Yeah, she had bodies lying in the field there, and after everybody kind of woke up and realized what had been done, they didn't want to have anything to do with her.
Yeah, that's sort of what happened, and then one day I sent her an email telling her that I don't think we should be friends anymore, and how I didn't really feel like it was my place to tell her what to do or how to live her life. And
is that when the real her came out?
Oh, she went off on me, and she, the funny thing was, she never asked why, and that's the thing that got to me the most. She kept asking for, you know, she said, like, well, I hope one day you'll find it in your heart to forgive me, and she said something like, I know I'm a little rough around the edges, but she never actually came out and asked me why, you know, I chose not to be friends with her, and it's like she already had a stock answer. And so
would you have told her had she asked?
I would tell her, I'd be so happy to tell her, but you know, I didn't. She had no intention. I think she already knew. I don't think she had any intention of listening. I think she.
Do you still have to work with this person?
Yes, and what I did was I talked to not my supervisor, because I think, you know, my supervisor was charmed by her, but my supervisor's supervisor, and I told him that I wanted to work with a different team, and I didn't give him the reason why. I just said I felt like I need experience with this other team, and he was happy to help me with that. But when my original supervisor found out, you know, his feelings were hurt that I left his team, and he didn't understand it. And I just knew that if I were to, you know, give the reason why, he wouldn't understand. He'd completely take her side and accuse me of being the one to start the drama. So I just felt the further away I can get from it, the better.
Yeah. You know, I have to say, you do have to protect yourself. I give this advice in the book, and you're familiar with In Sheep's Clothing, is that correct?
Yeah.
And I do have to say that you do have to protect yourself. And you do have to know where the limits and boundaries are with respect to what you can handle, especially in the workplace. You know, if you're in a job that you really can't afford to lose, and you realize full well what the repercussions are likely to be, sometimes it is best just to keep your distance, and sometimes it is best not to give too much information, to just set the limit, draw the boundary, and enforce it, and be done with it, just as you did. However, I have also found that because once exposed and the jig is up, when somebody has these folks' number, they can't help most of the time showing more of their true nature. And unless they're of a mind to really go after you openly, and they have the power and the resources and the support to do it, I find it is best to just call it very bluntly and tell them exactly what it is that they have done that you don't appreciate, and what it is about them in character that you find problematic. Therapists have done this for years in therapy. I've just got to say, we have all, as therapists, and if there are any therapists listening out there, I'd be glad if you'd chime in. We've always known that there were these disturbed characters, and we have tiptoed around the issues and not addressed them directly. For example, when someone comes into the therapy room and they've got this attitude of entitlement, or they've got this attitude of superiority, and they've got this predisposition to jockey for power, and they get covertly aggressive. Many times what we'll do is, rather than concentrate on that behavior, we'll talk about related things. We'll focus on maybe the problems in communication that arise in relationships, or the problems that they might have cultivating and keeping friendships. But I have found in my work that there's instant respect and recognition when you dare to call out the elephant in the room. I've had many a ear perk up when I look the disturbed character right in the eye and say, this attitude that you display, this haughtiness, this arrogance, has this always been an issue?
Well, I think, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Most of my life, I grew up trying to be compassionate and sensitive to people and not hurting their feelings, and I honestly believed, until I read your book, I honestly believed these people were, like people like her were hurting, and they just needed, love and patience to help them out. And,
right.
I found that wasn't so much the case.
Right. This comes out of the old psychology that everybody is coming from a fearful, insecure place, dealing with old wounds, and you will only spark a rise in their quote-unquote defenses if you dare to confront certain things that might invite them to feel badly, right? I mean, that's the old psychology. We were all raised in this psychology. Is that not correct?
I mean, that's how I would have interpreted it.
Yeah. And so we tippy-toe around the things that we think might invite them to feel badly. And, it's also hard for us, good old-fashioned neurotics, who actually are, like the old paradigms describe, we are full of insecurities and hang-ups, and we have defenses, and we are a bit insecure, and we can imagine how we would react or how we would feel. Uh-oh. Hello? Are you still there? I'm not sure that we're still on the air, but I'm going to keep going here. I think we've lost our caller. But Can't hear the caller. Well, at any rate, it's likely that the person that we're dealing with might have some degree of defensiveness, neurosis, or whatnot, but it's also quite likely that the person that we're dealing with, if they have a disturbance of character, is not going to go to pieces because you confront the very behavior that needs to change. As a matter of fact, sometimes that behavior is the very thing that the person needs to have called to their attention. For example, and you know, it's not so much that you confront, it's the way that you do it that matters a lot. It needs to be very benign, without malice and without negative intention, but still very direct. For example, in this wonderful example that Tara gave, where this woman's main covert aggressive behavior was to gossip negatively about folks, perhaps most especially about folks with whom she was in a position to jockey for power. Perhaps she was concerned that some of the other folks might curry favor, and that might jeopardize her position some. But in any case, whatever the reason, it really matters little. But one of her covert behaviors to maintain a position of power was to carry negative tales in gossip, to demean others in subtle ways, and to disparage them in gossip. And this caused a real crisis in the relationship and an inability to trust her, and it is how she ended up alienating a lot of people. So, one thing that is perfectly legitimate and reasonable is, in a benign, non-hostile way, to call attention to that very behavior. To say, well, you know, I can't be friends with you anymore, at least at this point, and this is the reason. You gossip. And when you gossip, you say disparaging things about other people. This leads me to wonder what you might be saying about me behind my back. This is uncomfortable for me. It makes me very uncomfortable, and it makes me very hesitant to trust. And a relationship has to be built on trust. So, you know, I wish that you would take a serious look at that. I wish that you would do something about that. Perhaps if that behavior were to change, and perhaps if I were to see that you had made an effort to make amends toward those folks that you had injured, perhaps not only could we be friends again, but perhaps we could be even better friends than we were before. Now, I'm just throwing that out as an example, and I hope, Tara, that you don't regard that discussion as either an admonition or a piece of direct advice as to how you should have handled your situation. I don't mean that at all. But what I am suggesting is that you can, if done deftly, you can confront these behaviors and confront them directly without malice. Now, you always do run the risk, especially with covertly aggressive people. You run the risk of these folks becoming more overtly vicious. They might be so prideful, so wounded in their false pride, that they are simply not going to have being called out. And therefore, they will get back in some way. And more than likely more overtly than before. And if that's the case, you do need to have your strong support systems in place. You do need to have alternatives in place. You do need to have alternatives at hand. You might even need to find some other working environment, or as Tara mentioned, you might have to go higher up the chain and get support from superiors. But this is a common kind of thing in the workplace, and I understand the hesitancy folks have to deal with these behaviors directly. I also understand full well how it is that your gut tells you one thing, but you have a hard time in your mind wrapping yourselves around it. How it's so unfathomable to perceive these folks as being so position oriented, so oriented toward having a position of power, dominance, and influence, that they'll go to any lengths to get it and to preserve it. Even subtle little covert behaviors such as Tara described here in her example. And I thank you for sharing it, Tara, and I thank you for the call. Call in anytime. I do want to get back before my voice goes completely. I'm sorry for the voice issues that I've been having lately. But I want to go back to the issue that I was talking about earlier, about what I see as a really grave danger facing our country, and that is the appeal to the character disturbed among us who feel disenfranchised. The most dysfunctional characters among us, and the prime targets they are for these masterminds of totalitarian ideologies, these extreme disturbed characters who want to rule the world and who, if they have their say, will rule. And they are ruthless. They will stop at nothing for power. Absolutely nothing. And we've seen examples of that. This past week, the airways have been filled with this group that has been wreaking havoc in the northeastern parts of Syria and northwestern parts of Iraq, and all the bloodshed that has been shed as they go through town after town, rounding people up, mass beheadings, shooting people in front of their families at point blank range, beheading people in front of their spouses and children, hanging people out to dry, literally. This kind of terror is all designed to get people to cower in terror and to afford power to these folks who will stop at nothing. And they solicit members to their ranks by appealing to the disenfranchised, those folks who have felt relatively powerless and who, in their character disturbance, have externalized the blame for their failures. Now, in some cases, there is some legitimacy there, but in most cases, it is just part and parcel of character disturbance to want to find blame in other folks, to externalize the blame for personal failure, to blame people, places, and things for the reason that you're not making it. It's not you, and it's not the fact that you haven't learned what you need to learn to get by. No, it's all those other evil people, and by gosh, when you have the power, they will get their just desserts. And these are the kinds of characters that are ripe for the picking for these power-seeking totalitarians who are right now at work among the disenfranchised of our country. I am telling you, this is happening now. The seeds of dissent and the seeds of jihad are being planted right now. I'm not talking about the noble, holy jihad that good, faith-adhering Muslims believe is necessary to purify one's heart and soul. There are those spiritual jihadists who fully well understand that there's this war that goes on within all of us, this war between good and evil, this war between the calls of the flesh, so to speak, the demands of the world, and that are deadly to the human spirit, that take us away from personal holiness. Devout Muslims, spiritually centered Muslims, know this to be true. And so the jihad that they want to carry out is within their own hearts and souls. It's a holy war that they strive daily through prayer, fasting, and all the other observances to win, to make of themselves better people. This is beautiful. There's nothing evil about this. The jihadists I'm talking about are nothing but covert aggressors, using the cover of faith, using unholy using of the name of God and their religion to mount political and social power, to rule as tyrants. This is what they crave. There is no pretense that the leaders use, but they recruit from those who feel disenfranchised. And they sell them on this ideology. And it's happening here. And because we have so much character dysfunction in our country, and because we have so many disenfranchised, huge populations, tens of millions of our population that have either been in jail or are in jail, or will be again, because they don't even have the clue about how to function responsibly in our society. These folks are fertile territory for these ideologists, for these power seekers spreading this ideology and spreading it for the purpose solely of gaining power, solely to rule. That's their objective, pure and simple. They just want to rule the world. They are the aggressive, dominance-seeking personalities that I describe in my books. Read about them. Please read about them. Read about the tactics they use. And please understand that so long as we have so much character dysfunction in our country, there will be fertile grounds for these people to reach with these twisted ideologies that appeal to the disenfranchised and tell them, okay, you know what? The reason that you're down and out, the reason that you are not making it, it's not you. It's not you and your character. That's not it. It's your oppressors and their evil. That's what it is. And you know what? our job is to rid the world of these oppressors, and if you'll band with me, we will band them together. We will give them what they deserve, and then when we're in charge, all will be well. And this is just such attractive ideology, and it's being preached every day in halfway houses, in prisons, in jails, on the streets, in certain mosques, unfortunately, in certain groups affiliated with certain, and not even just in that. It would be a mistake, a huge mistake, to just focus on this one radical wing of one religion. It's in a lot of different groups. There are an awful lot of hate-based groups out there with their twisted ideologies. And their ranks come from the disenfranchised, from the seekers, from the folks looking for better. And they found these messages appealing. I talk about these manipulative type characters who are able to cultivate these followings in my book, In Sheep's Clothing. They are a danger, an ever-present danger. And what our country is facing is a future, it's not too far away, not unlike what some folks are experiencing right now, the terror that some folks are feeling right now. In these oppressed countries where people are afraid to even breathe, are afraid to say the wrong thing. Their heads might end up on a stake. This could be coming to America. It sounds alarmist. I know. Some folks are saying Dr. Simon's lost his ever-loving mind. Believe me, this is the kind of thing that appeals to folks who cannot look internally, who cannot take stock of themselves, and who do not see that the answer to their prosperity and to the answer to their success lies within. Rather, they cast the blame externally, and they see only that they have been mistreated, oppressed, victimized in some way, and now is their chance to affiliate with a group that will help them gain some power that they never felt before, and will help them get back at their oppressors. This kind of ideology is being perpetrated in a lot of places. It's not being widely disseminated in public places. Why? Because that's where you're not going to attract folks that way. You know, the folks who are doing well and who understand how it works and who have gotten with the program and who have made of themselves decent folks, they're going to write this kind of stuff off. They're going to completely write it off. But in the underbelly of society, in the places where the disenfranchised reside, this message is more attractive. It's more attractive. And this is how recruits are got. One heart after another is won over. And these movements gain steam. And make no mistake, these movements are taking root here and now. And I shudder to think what it will take to wake us up. I shudder. It wasn't that long ago that there was a beheading in the street. Now, true, it was a beheading, and it was here on our soil. And it was by one deranged person. But it wasn't a big enough wake-up call for us. It wasn't a big enough wake-up call. My fear is that it will take something bigger than another 9/11. That it will take some deranged person with a small nuclear device in a subway station. That it will take something much more horrendous than we could even imagine. Perhaps someone with a biological weapon, able to unleash it maybe even on a public water supply or something like that, creating mass casualties. It will take something like that to wake us up. Our freedom hangs in the balance. This war is a worldwide war. We have it within ourselves to be better people. All of us do. But we must call out those that aren't, and we must deal with those character issues directly. And we must not allow the fertile grounds that we have made for those who would spew a far-fetched but nonetheless attractive ideology for the sole purpose of gathering power. That is their sole purpose. Their sole purpose is to rule. There are elements that right now are trying to put together a worldwide theocracy based on their terms, not on God's terms. Who's kidding who? God has no part of the evil intentions of these power seekers. No part. They are condemned by their very invocation of the name of their faith or their God. God has no part of the evil in the heart that simply wants to dominate and rule, and at all cost, that every human life is expendable unless it bows down to them. This is the evil that confronts us. It is worse than fascism ever was. It's worse than Nazism ever was. It's an evil the likes of which we have not seen in our lifetime, and it's growing. And I don't know what it will take to bring us to our senses. I fear what it will take. And that's why, as the program closes tonight, I want you to once again listen to the theme and to go to YouTube and to click on one of the videos of America My Home. Google Anthem for the Millennia, or Google America My Home, or go to YouTube and do a search for patriotic songs and search for America My Home, or Anthem for the Millennium, and listen and let it inspire you. Our freedom hangs in the balance. Sure would like a lot more folks performing this for 4th of July or for other events this year. I've gotten several requests already, would like to get lots more. But let it inspire you. We face a situation the likes of which we have not seen in our lifetime. And it's only my hope that through my work on the internet, my books, and through this song, folks will